Okay, today we're going to learn about linear perspective, and we're going to do a sketch similar to this. And we're doing perspective, 1-point perspective. So the first step we're going to do, so take your blank piece of paper and you're going to line it up so it's sort of square with the edge of your table. You don't have to put it right at the edge of the table, but just so it's sort of lined up with your table so it's working for you. Go ahead and tape down the corners of your drawing. Great. Okay, the next step is you're going to use your ruler and your pencil, and so this will be about halfway up your page to about 3/4 up your page. You're going to decide where to put your horizon line. And your horizon line, if you remember, we were talking about the artists of the Renaissance. Imagine they were looking through a window frame, and the horizon line would be in the distance where you see the sky meeting the ground. So you're going to draw a horizontal line, which means horizontal side to side, about halfway to 3/4 up your page. So just hold your ruler down kind of tight so it doesn't slip as you just do a medium line there. Okay. And the next thing you're going to do is in the center, and you can just guess, you don't have to measure. In the center of this horizon line, you're going to make a little dot. And that's going to be your vanishing point. Okay, the vanishing point, and when we're talking about perspective, all lines that are going to disappear into the distance, all your parallel lines, also called orthogonal lines, will be leading towards that vanishing point. On your own time at home, if you really enjoy this, you can look up 2-point or 3-point perspective as well and try that. That's even more fun than this. But this is fun too. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do, so all lines that are creating depth will be running to that vanishing point. All the other lines in your drawings, for the most part, there's one exception, will be vertical lines like this or horizontal lines like this. Okay, so we're going to start with a vertical line that runs to the vanishing point, and you're going to start down there near the bottom of your page, and this is going to be a dashed line. And as you go, the dashes will get closer together and a little bit lighter and smaller as they disappear into the distance. Okay? Great. And then the next line you're going to do about 2 inches over. You don't have to measure, you can just eyeball it. Or you can measure if you have a ruler with easy to read measurements on it, on either side of that. So you see these 2 dots here? And then you're going to draw a line. So I'm lining up my vanishing point to this one on the left, and I'm just going to draw a line from there to there. And then the same thing on the other side. What do you see? What does that look like? Can you see that on there? It's supposed to look like a road. Does yours look like a road? Great job. Okay, the next step we're going to do, now that we have our road, we're going to go ahead and make the start of a house over here on the left. So we're going to measure in about 1 inch from the left side. So you can line up your ruler here. So here's your inch mark, and just go ahead and make a little dot there. That's where the vertical is going to go. And then about 1.5 inches from the bottom and 1.5 inches below the horizon line. So I'm lining up my vertical here with this dot. Here's my horizon line, so I'm going to measure down 1.5 inches, make a little dot there. Then I'm going to shift my ruler up 1 inch, 1/2 an inch, and make a dot there. Now I'm going to go draw a line from this dot to that dot, like that. this, we're gonna call this line corner 1. We're going to draw 2 horizontal lines off of those corners. Now remember, horizontal are side to side, and we're going to kind of line it up with the edge of the paper. See how I'm lining this up down here with the edge of the paper? And then also just lining up with my corner. And probably about another inch to inch and a half. It's up to you how you want to do that. However wide you want to make your house. Okay? And then we're going to draw another vertical line that just connects these two. But oh no, I went too far. So I can just erase that if it goes past the corner a little bit. So this is the front of our house now. This we're gonna call corner 2. Now the next line we're gonna draw, we're gonna do light lines for these because we might need to do some erasing. So we're gonna start up here at the top of corner 2 and line it up with the vanishing point. And the same down here. Okay, that's going to be the side of our house. And we're going to go back on this, however far you want to make it. You don't have to measure if you don't want to, but if you want to measure, maybe, let's say, like 2 to 3 inches, somewhere in there. I'm just going to eyeball it. How wide do you want to make your house? So, again, all lines are either vertical, horizontal, or running to the vanishing point for the most part. So this is gonna be another vertical line. And I'm just gonna go, let's say, right about there. Okay, so now I'm gonna just darken this line a little so you guys can see it better. Let's line that up. Make sure to hold your ruler so it doesn't slip away from you. Okay, so this is the side of our house. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna draw the roof on the house. So on this front side of the house, we're gonna look about halfway to the middle of the front of the house, and we're gonna go up about an inch or so and just put a little dot there. Okay, can you see it already? Are you starting to visualize it? Now you're just gonna connect the front corner, the top of corner 1 to the dot. And the same thing on the other side. Now, this top of the roof, to find the angle for the top of the roof, yep, you guessed it, vanishing point. Go ahead and line that up with your vanishing point and draw a line straight back, like that. And now, we're gonna do the trickiest line in the whole drawing, in my opinion, but it's not that hard. So what it is this angle right here. To do the angle back here, it has to be parallel to this. But we don't have a place to like line up with, so we have to sort of project the angle backwards. So to do that, I just line up my ruler with the angle here, and then I'm just gonna slide along the top of the roof towards the vanishing point until I get to the top of corner 3 right here. And then draw from here to here. Then pick it up. Did you do it? Did you get it to look parallel? Good job. Now you can erase these guidelines. We're done with these. And if you have any lines on your house that are hard to see, you can darken those up if you want. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a door and a window on here. So we're going to decide we're going to make our door about halfway up. The tops of our door and window about halfway up your side. So I just put a little dot about halfway up. And I'm going to draw a really light line from that dot to the vanishing point. And I don't have to go all the way because I know there's not going to be a window floating in space over here. So I just stopped there at corner 3. I'm going to decide where I want to put my door, probably about here. I'm going to make a dot there, and I want my door to be about that wide. So there and there. Now I just need to do a couple vertical lines. So I'm going to go to the dot and do a vertical line just right up to that guideline we drew. And then I'm going to slide it over, draw another vertical line like that. Now I can darken up the top of my door. There, now we have a door there. Now we're gonna do the same thing with the window, but the window isn't gonna go to the bottom, is it? Because then it would be another door. So you can decide how big do you want your window to be. You want a giant window out here that they can really see a nice view of the road, or would you like a smaller window? It's up to you. So you can decide on this part. So I'm gonna make the dots up here actually for this one. And slide my vertical over. And I'm gonna go down to like there. I'm gonna make a big window. Then I'm gonna line up to my vanishing point on the bottom corner there of the window. Just go lightly this way. And I'm gonna use this dot to do another vertical line down to where I drew that guide line down there to tell me where to stop. Okay, now I'll just darken these two lines so we can see it better. And we can erase any guidelines we're not using. Now we have a house with a window and a door. Pretty fun, huh? Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do a line of trees on the other side of the road. And for that, you're gonna need 3 guidelines to do it. So the first one, we're gonna make a line that's about, let's say, right about here. 1 inch to 2 inches from the edge. I'm just gonna draw just a light line there. And that's gonna be the guideline for the bottom of the tree trunks. Then I'm gonna do another one about here, up the side. About 1 inch to 1.5 inches up the side of the page. And that's gonna be how tall the tree trunks are. And then I'm actually gonna measure for this one. This one I'm gonna do 4 inches up over here. Okay, and that's gonna be the top of the trees. Now, the trees, we probably don't wanna start them way down here because that might be too giant. So I'm gonna start like right about here, my first tree. And this is probably the most free, creative part of the drawing, where I'm gonna not use my ruler so much. I'm just gonna imagine, what does a tree trunk look like? It's gonna have kind of a squiggly line that goes in and back out again for a branch. Then the bottom of the trunk is gonna be a little bit rounded. And then the same thing on this side, just sort of mirror it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and then your leaves at the top of the tree, we're gonna overlap that a little bit and I would just use some squiggly lines to go around like that. Now if you want to add some branches in there, like that. Maybe there's another one here. And then we'll add more detail in at the end, but now you have the kind of the general shape of your tree, your first tree in the foreground. Foreground is the closest to the viewer. Okay, now, just like your dashed lines, where you did here, where they were bigger and farther apart at the front, then they get smaller and closer together as they get into the distance. You're gonna do the same thing with your trees. So you're gonna go back here a little ways, maybe to here, to draw your next tree. I'll go back a little bit. And we're gonna draw a trunk. Maybe it comes out like that. Now this trunk, it's gonna look a little bit skinnier than the last one because it's a little farther away. Now, before I do the leaves, I wanna remind you guys, when we did our still life drawing, that the fruit, was the one in the front, you could see the whole thing. And then any fruit that was behind it, you didn't see the entire fruit, did you? It kind of overlapped. So just like that with this tree, as it goes farther back, if there's any of it that's hiding behind here, you're not gonna draw that part because this tree is blocking this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw, remember it's a little bit smaller now. Use the guideline to show you where the tree ends there. Okay, like that. And then you can keep going. You can do as many as you want all the way back. I'll just do them really fast here. I think one thing I should say here is, so if you notice I didn't say it, but so the bottom of the tree trunk doesn't go this way. it's running kind of sideways off or horizontally off of this. This guideline is just for the front left corner of the tree. So, like I said, this is kind of the most creative part that doesn't require the ruler or anything like that. So I'm just gonna put a bunch of trees, and maybe as they get back farther and farther, you don't see as much definition because it's getting really far away. And then they're way back in the distance, and you just see some squiggly lines as it gets farther away. Okay, now you can go ahead and erase the guidelines that are there for the trees. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I have a fountain in my turtle tank over there. That's what that water sound is. Okay, we got those guidelines erased. And if you erase some of your tree as you're doing it accidentally, that's okay. You can just draw it right back in. Okay, and one thing so there's a lot of pencil erasings on here right now. I try to wipe my hand off before I brush it because your hands, sometimes they get a little sweaty, and if you just like that, it'll smear your drawing pretty bad. So just try to dry your hand off on your shirt or your pants or whatever you have, paper towel or something, before you rub your hand across there because it might smear it. Okay, then the last step of drawing that we're gonna have on here is we're gonna make just sort of a landscape in the distance along the top, just above your horizon line. And I was gonna do kind of a mountain landscape. So this is another sort of like, this is just kind of free and creative. Same thing with this. So I would just kind of do a loose squiggle line that goes up and down like that. So you have, it looks like mountains in the distance. Okay. And then if you want to keep going, you can choose to add more windows on here. After you've done this one, you know how to do them, right? You just pick where you want to put them. You can even do some on this side. This side would be easy. They're just squares because there's no perspective lines on this side. And then you can also, in this example, I put a covered bridge over here. So for the older students, if we want to walk through that, I can walk through that with you. But before we do that, I'm just going to show you quick. We talked about doing light sources last time. Do you remember with the still life, we had the flashlight example where we shone the flashlight on the fruit and like looked at the way that, so if we pretend like, let's say that there's a sunshine, maybe it's off your page, shining this way, and everything's going to cast a shadow, and the side of these things will be darker because it's the side opposite the light source. So you can do some shading on here, on your trees, in the leaves, even in the bark. And the shading I do on bark and stuff like that, I kind of make it more scribbly to show texture because it's bumpy and rough. But the same thing is like, just like we did with the charcoal, you can do that with pencil where you push a little bit harder on the dark parts and then you let up on your pressure a little to make it lighter. And then you can smudge it with your finger just the same as you did. And if when you smudge it, if it goes off of your tree or wherever you're shading and you don't want it there, you can just erase it and it'll come right up. Same with your house. If you want to do some shading on your house, make it darker on the edge that's farthest away from your light source. You push harder on that side. This is what will probably take the most amount of time, putting in all the details of the light and shadow on your drawing. So that's the darker part, and then I'm going to just start lifting my pencil a little bit so I'm not pushing as hard and it gets lighter. As I move towards the light source, and maybe it's a little bit darker on the bottom and then gets a little bit lighter this way. And then if you smudge it with your finger, it'll kind of blend it together like that. You don't have to. Sometimes I just leave it with just the pencil shading and don't use my finger. Then you also can think about cast shadows. So if the light source is coming this way, this shadow is going to come down here. So there's a shadow on the ground. Maybe it looks like that. And this doesn't have to be the exact shape of the tree, but something similar to it. And then shadows are filled in pretty thickly, so I would make it pretty dark. Then you can blend that with your finger. And now if you did that with each one of these, you'll start to see a really nice pattern. But remember, these would all be, they all have the same light source, so as it goes back here, it would be pretty parallel to each other. And the shadows would get a little bit smaller as you go farther back too. Some other details you can put in here if you want to put in some grass by the tree trunks, you can do that. And so on forth, all the way to the back. So that's as far as I'm going to go with this part, but I will go quick and just draw the covered bridge on here if you guys want to try that. And if you run out of time and you want to do it at home, you can do it at home. You just got to make sure you tape it down and use your ruler at home. You don't need anything special to do these when you're not here with us. So for the covered bridge on here, I chose to draw it sort of tucked behind this tree, because if it's a bridge, it would be up in the air and you'd see water going under it. And I think that would be a little challenging for this first one to do. So I just made it kind of be blocked by this tree. So wherever you put it, make sure you kind of put it nestled behind the tree there. So I'm going to start with the front corner of it about here. And you're doing the same exact thing as you did with the house. You're just on the opposite side now. So I'm starting with this corner, going this way. I'm gonna draw the bottom line kind of lightly because I'm gonna do some erasing on that one this time because it's not solid in there. And again, now you're going to the vanishing point from this side. Okay. And this one's gonna be there. And it just sort of disappears behind the tree like that. And then same as before with the roof, pick a point that's centered on the front, connect it to make a triangle. Draw the top back to the horizon line. And then project this angle backwards. Whoops. Make sure your tape is stuck down or you'll bump it and it'll catch your ruler. That's what I just did. Okay, I'm lining it up, moving it back to the corner, drawing it, erasing my guideline. Now, the only thing different about this one, instead of putting windows and doors in here, we're gonna draw an opening for, I don't know, cars or whatever to go through. So I'm drawing two dots kind of near the edges. And I think I want it to go way up here, pretty tall, so. Okay, and I'm going to actually erase this line, believe it or not. Now I'm going to draw a line from this corner right here. This is the part that makes it look believable, that it's hollow in there. So right now it just looks like there's an opening there, but you can't drive through it. So I'm going to draw a line from here to here to make it look open. Now, if this is just an open bridge sitting there, not on a road, you could stop there. But if you wanted to make it look like it's on a road, you could go behind the bridge and continue the line there, and then also just shift it up just a tiny bit to this part and draw it that way. And same with this down here, you can add in a line here to make it look like a road going through there. So I'm lining up with my vanishing point on the front corner here, and then back there, and it gets so tiny back there you'd barely have to draw it. There you go. And now if I were to shade this in to make it look like it's hollow, you just fill in the inside. Great, now make sure you put your name on your drawing wherever you want, usually in the bottom corner somewhere. If you want to add you know, some shading back here. You can do that. Put more details here. Like I said, you can put some grass around the trees to make it look real, or more realistic. But that's how you do a 1-point perspective. Thanks so much.